Hello, everyone, and welcome to Black-Owned Media Matters, a TV News Check webinar. I'm Kathy Haley, co-founder and publisher of TV News Check, a leading source of business news for the television industry and allied fields. We are very pleased to bring you an important conversation today about eliminating systemic racism from the way marketers allocate their advertising buys. Let me introduce you to our distinguished lineup of speakers. Byron Allen is a comedian, producer, and distributor of television programming and wide-release feature films. He founded Entertainment Studios, his Los Angeles-based production and distribution company, in 1993, and has since built it into one of the largest independent producer-distributors of first-run syndicated shows in the US, with a stable of 67 original programs. His Allen Media Group owns and operates 16 US television stations and 10 cable networks, including the Weather Channel, Pets TV, Comedy TV, Cars TV, and Recipe TV. The company's digital media portfolio includes the advertiser-supported streaming services Local Now and The Griot, a news and information service providing African Americans and other viewers with perspectives underrepresented in other national news outlets. Byron has been leading the charge in recent months to convince major marketers to allocate at least 2% of their ad budgets to Black-owned media companies. Early results of this effort have included an announcement that General Motors will devote 4% of its ad budget to Black-owned media in 2022 and gradually increase that spend to 8% by 2025. Additionally, Verizon has announced it will partner with Byron to convene a summit on Black-owned media matters in May. Earl Graves, otherwise known as Butch, is president and CEO of Black Enterprise. He joined the company in 1988 after earning his MBA from Harvard University and has held a number of roles at the company since then, including VP of Advertising and Marketing and Chief Operating Officer. In 2006, he was named to his current position. Under Butch's guidance, Black Enterprise has grown from a single title publication into a robust multimedia company that today delivers content across 5 platforms. These include magazine publishing, 2 nationally syndicated television shows, professional development events, digital and social media. In 2000, Butch co-founded the Black Enterprise Greenwich Street Corporate Growth Fund, a unique private equity firm seeking to finance the growth of established minority-owned or managed businesses across various industries. Roland Martin is a journalist, author, and commentator whose work has appeared on CNN, TV One, and radio's The Roland Martin Show. Roland's books include Speak Brother, A Black Man's View of America, Listening to the Spirit Within, 50 Perspectives on Faith, and The First, Barack Obama's Road to the White House, as originally reported by Roland Martin. You can find him currently on YouTube, where he hosts Roland Martin Unfiltered. Our moderator today is April Ryan. She's a reporter, author, and political analyst who has worked in the White House press corps since the Clinton administration. After launching her career at several radio stations in the US, April served as White House correspondent and Washington, D.C. bureau chief for the American Urban Radio Networks. She joined CNN in 2017 as a political analyst, and in May of that year was named Journalist of the Year by the National Association of Black Journalists. She currently serves as White House correspondent for the GRIO. As the only Black female reporter covering urban issues from the White House, April has gained a unique vantage point that enables her to deliver her readers, listeners, and viewers news that amplifies Black culture. A note about our audience today: we have a diverse audience that includes, in addition to many advertising agency and media company executives, managers and executives from some Black-owned media companies, including BET, Black News Channel, Essence Global, and the 18th Annual National Black Business Month. That's as of last night's registration list. To our audience, please remember that if you have a question for our speakers, you can ask it at any time by using the Q&A feature on your Zoom screen. April, I want to welcome all of you, and it's my pleasure to turn the webinar over to you, April.
Thank you so much. And this is going to be a very robust conversation. And we want you all to sit back and send Kathy some of those questions that you have, because this is a very important conversation. This is a conversation that needed to be had many decades ago, when Black media became the heartbeat and the drumbeat of the Black community. And now in 2021, Byron Allen is leading the challenge. And I want to bring Byron Allen in. Byron Allen, the owner of Allen Media. Byron Allen, where are you?
I'm right here. Hello.
There you go. There you go. Hello.
Hello.
My boss that I'm very pleased with, and I hope he's pleased with me as well. But the issue is, and I love working for Black media. I've worked for Black media for about 36 years. Give or take a couple of years, but Black media is very important. Why? Because other media don't necessarily cater to issues pertaining to the underserved community, which is the Black community. And Byron, I want to get to the point, get straight to the heart of this. You have called out Madison Avenue. You have asked them to stop their racist practices. Can you give us a little bit more detail about your call to action for Madison Avenue?
Listen, it's real simple. You know, years ago, I had bought the rights to Coretta Scott King's book, My Life with Martin, because I wanted to look at Martin Luther King through her eyes. And what I discovered was not only a magnificent love story, it was something that just changed my life forever. And Coretta Scott King said to me, Byron, as Black people in America, we've had 4 major challenges. Number one, end slavery. Number 2, end Jim Crow, which I think was more damaging than slavery, because that's when we went in their minds from being an asset to a liability. And that's when they started to murder us and lynch us and burn us and incarcerate us and started genocide against us. And then she said, number 3, achieve civil rights. And then she said something that I'll never forget. And she said, in number 4, the real reason they killed my Martin, achieve economic inclusion. She said, Byron, they didn't kill my Martin over the I Have a Dream speech. They killed my Martin over the speech he gave at Stanford University, The Other America. In that speech, he said, there are 2 Americas. One America has access to opportunity and education and economic inclusion, and the other America does not. There are 2 Americas, and 2 Americas will not survive. That's why they killed our Martin. It was over economic inclusion. And that stayed with me. And it stuck with me in such a strong way. And I remember saying to her, you and Martin have done more than enough for our people. We will deal with the 4th and final chapter, economic inclusion. And we can't have one America unless each and every American has access to economic inclusion. So what I have found when I started my company almost 30 years ago from my dining room table, absolutely no sensitivity and no economic inclusion from racist Madison Avenue. It's very convenient of racist Madison Avenue to just say, oh, I don't have a category that supports Black-owned media, not to be confused with Black targeted media. So what I did was, I was a big supporter of President, or at that time, Senator, Barack Hussein Obama. And his administration came to me and they asked me to speak with the Department of Justice, and I sat with their lawyers, 18 of them in a room for half a day, and various people throughout his administration. And he asked me, they asked me, they said, look, all these companies are trying to get bigger. Are they good corporate citizens? And I get quite a few folks in Washington, D.C. reaching out to me to ask me questions. And I said, listen, do you want the real answer or do you want the Hollywood answer? These big companies, these big cable operators trying to buy one another and get bigger. And they said, we want the real answer. I said, no, I don't think they're good corporate citizens. I said, because they're spending $70 billion a year licensing cable networks and not one penny is going to Black-owned media. And I said, that is unacceptable. I said, you have white guys out here who own Spanish language networks and they can't even speak Spanish. People in the gay community do not own their networks. People, the Asian community, it's as if they're invisible. No one owns their platforms. And we can't have a real democracy unless we own our platforms, we have a seat at the table, and our voices are seen and heard. And they said, we hear that quite a bit, but everybody's afraid to speak out. And I said, I'm not. I'm more than happy to deal with it. And I said, but I'm going to do it my way. I'm not going to work with DC. I'm just going to do it off to outside of this circle because I just feel there's just too many people who are, basically bought and paid for. So I decided to file $40 billion in lawsuits against the cable industry. And I used the Civil Rights Act of 1866, Section 1981, the very first civil rights statute put on the books to protect the newly freed slaves, to make sure that Black people in America had economic inclusion. And this was the very first civil rights statute put on the books. We successfully went downtown. We went to the Ninth Circuit. We went to the Supreme Court. I spent 6 years and tens of millions of dollars of my own money to do it. And I wanted to show white corporate America that there is a trade deficit. The greatest trade deficit in America is the trade deficit between white corporate America and Black America. And we have to close that trade deficit immediately and stop the economic genocide against Black America. So after we successfully did that and we resolved all 3 of those lawsuits, much to our satisfaction, I decided to deal with Madison Avenue because there's a big problem there. But one of the people we sued in that $40 billion of lawsuits, one of those chairmen said to me, Byron, I really wish you had come to me before I read about this, $20 billion lawsuit against me in the New York Times and the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal. I wish you had given me the opportunity to fix this. And I said, you know what? In the future, that's what I'm going to do. So when this pandemic hit, I decided to take this last year, about February or March of last year, And I decided to reach out to all the holding companies, all the ad agencies, all the clients. And I reached out to them and I said, we have a problem. You have conveniently omitted Black-owned media from your budgets. And it's wrong. It's very white of you to conveniently leave Black-owned media out and basically just eliminate us. And I'm saying to you in a very peaceful way, it's time to resolve this. And you need to include Black-owned media in your budgets. And if you don't include Black-owned media in your budgets, you are in violation of the Civil Rights Act of 1866. And we want to do this in a way that is, holistic, where it's everybody participating, every holding company, every ad agency, and every client. And if they don't participate, then you've made it clear that you don't value us as Black people in America. You don't value us as Black consumers. And then at that point, we should take legal action. We should use our platforms to call on Black America to boycott you. We should call on our relationships in Washington, D.C. to investigate you, break you up, hold you accountable for violating our civil rights and not providing economic inclusion. And we will do that, and we're happy to do that. And I have to tell you, the thing that I'm most enjoying about this entire process, the enormous support that we're getting from consumers and from politicians. The politicians in Washington, D.C., they're not happy about what they're hearing about the way these corporations are conducting themselves and not providing real economic inclusion for Black-owned media. And I think a number of these corporations are going to find they're going to have serious problems if they don't correct this immediately.
So Byron, a couple of things, in listening to what you just said, you evoked the name of Dr. King, and you talked about economics. Dr. King wanted Black America to have first-class citizenship. And what you're doing is fulfilling part of what he said, as many in Black-owned media are viewed by a lot of these corporations as subpar, and they get enough to survive. What did you say? We don't need to survive. We need to what?
We need to thrive. And the problem with Black America is that for over 400 years, it's always been about surviving. Well, we're done with surviving. It's time to thrive. And it's time to have more than enough and to have real economic inclusion and not just, what I find that white corporate America does is they say, okay, we have a Negro problem. So how do we get rid of this Negro problem? How little do we have to give them to shut up and go away? Don't try and minimize us and do just the bare minimum to make these pesky Negroes go away. This isn't that conversation. What do I have to do? And what I would also say to white corporate America, don't defend. Your position is indefensible. Do not defend. You don't need the lawyers. You don't need the PR spin. You just need to get to the table and show respect. It's time to hear Aretha Franklin loud and clear. Show respect. Show respect the way we show respect to you. Get to the table and do business with us the way we do business with you. Close the trade gap. And as you close the trade gap, you will have balance. And when we have balance, we will have a better America.
So I want to get into the stats and then get into some of the companies that you have called out, because you're being very bold in what you're doing with some of these companies that many African Americans purchase from. What is the statistic that you have from Black media and the people who support or the people who listen, read, or watch Black media? What are the numbers that you have?
Well, we're huge consumers just throughout the entire ecosystem. But what you have is a scenario of Madison Avenue spending a couple of $100 billion and less than 0.0001% going to Black-owned media. And I had a white guy ask me once, what's the difference between Black-owned and Black targeting? And I said, I'm glad you asked. I said, listen, you just had your baby girl and I just had my baby girl. And I'm just curious, as a white guy, are you comfortable with me controlling as a Black guy, do you want me to control your daughter's image, how she's produced, how she's seen around the world, how she sees herself? Can I control her self-esteem? Are you comfortable with me controlling that? And he said no. And I said, as a Black man, why would you expect anything differently from me? Now that my daughter has arrived and she's born, I'm not asking for a seat at the table. I'm taking a seat at the table. And when I've given you the opportunity to produce my image, what you did is you produced talk shows where you have Black men dancing on TV going, I just got the DNA test. Thank God I'm not the baby daddy. Thank God I'm not the baby daddy. I am not that father. I don't know that Black man. I'm trying to hang out with my kids so much they're getting restraining orders against me. That wasn't my daddy. That wasn't my granddaddy. When I allow you to produce me and depict me, you have me as a buffoon trying to figure out how not to take care of my kids. But when I have the opportunity to deploy my resources to put forth Black images, I give you 5 Black and brown people. I have an African-American male, Judge Ross, as a judge. I have 3 African-American females, Judge Maybelline, Judge Hatchett, and Judge Karen as judges. Judge Ross is a judge, and 1 Latina, Judge Christina Perez, who's won 5 Emmys or more for hosting court shows. I've given you 5 hours a day of Black and brown people as legal scholars, not buffoons dancing on television going, look at this, I'm not the baby daddy. So it's important that we produce our images, that we control our images and how we're seen and depicted around the world. That's the difference between Black owned and Black targeted. And it's also Black owned means you are participating in the economics that are being deployed. And you're not just sitting there collecting, peanuts, and you're not being used. It's very favorable now for white corporate America to have their Black section of their business. Well, that's just more exploitation. I don't need you to have your Black section of your business. I need those businesses to be owned by Black people.
So as Byron Allen, so as Byron Allen is saying, Black owned media matters. He's gone to the Wall Street Journal and called out General Motors just before the 2021 upfront advertising season. Why now, Byron? Why now?
Well, I've spent look, I started my company from my dining room table almost 30 years ago. And my home went in and out of foreclosure probably 14 times because I couldn't pay my mortgage, trying to pay the cameraman and pay for tape. I couldn't get advertisers. What saved me was 1-800 spray on hair, 1-800 abs in 24 hours, direct response. If we didn't have direct response, my company wouldn't be here today. And it happens to be one of the largest privately held media companies in the world. It's almost impossible for somebody Black to build a Black-owned media company with scale because of the systemic racism on Madison Avenue. The lack of economic inclusion from these white-controlled ad agencies and white clients. Literally no sensitivity. One of the, what I find is when Black America goes to white corporate America, they want to start talking about their donations. And they immediately want to, it's like we are a charity case. We're inferior. I have to donate to you. I have to save you. I don't need you to save me. I need you to do business with me the way I do business with you. Stop with talking about you gave money to the NAACP or you gave money to this or that and Black Lives Matter. That's not the conversation we're having. The conversation we're having is that you are spending billions and billions of dollars on advertising and little to zero goes to Black-owned media. Now, when I said a minimum of 2%, I was saying that to start the conversation. It should be 15%. Because that's economic parity. We represent approximately 14% of the population in America. And in some cases, we represent 15, 20, 30% of your revenue. So when I talk about economic inclusion, I'm talking, when I say at a minimum of 2%, and by the way, I've moved that to 5%. I've moved that to 5% because what I find with white corporate America, and especially white Madison Avenue, they can't figure out how to engage with Black people. What's Black? What are you saying? I don't understand. It's real simple. It's a simple conversation. A certain percentage of your budget, you need to pledge to Black-owned media and not necessarily Black targeted. I own the Weather Channel. That is not Black targeted. That's Black owned. But there are advertisers who don't do business with the Weather Channel. And I have to say to them, hey, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, who's your crack dealer? How do you think you can take so much money out of the Black community and not do business with Black owned media in a significant way? It's unacceptable. We're going to close this trade gap immediately. Now, I will say this. The biggest mistake I made in suing the cable industry for $40 billion is that I didn't do it 20 years earlier. And I will never make that mistake again. We're going to move efficiently. We're going to move effectively through the legal system, with consumers, and with government regulators. And this will be corrected for once and for all. My children and all of our children, Black children from this point forward, will never, ever deal with this trade deficit. Now, in conclusion, what I'll say here, there are a number of white people who just don't get it. It's their wiring, it's their DNA. Negroes should have nothing. Negroes will have nothing. Negroes, Jim Crow 2.0, they don't even understand why they're wired that way. They don't even understand that institutionalized racism in there. It's just like, Negroes should have nothing. Fine, I'm good with that, because you will be identified and you will be flushed out of the system and you will be gone. Your careers will be over and it will be done and we'll never look back. And everything will now come to light. So there's a reconciliation that's long overdue.
Reconciliation that's long overdue. And as we bring in Roland Martin, I want to add him to the conversation. And you made a very poignant remark. You are a Black man who owns a very mainstream television network, the Weather Channel, Black owned. So not necessarily Black targeted, but Black owned.
And I got to tell you something, that's a sad statement. In 2021, I am the only Black man in America that owns ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox affiliates. That's sad. That shouldn't be the case. I am the first Black man in America to own a mainstream news operation. Now, the Weather Channel is a significant platform. It's been voted 11 consecutive years in a row as the most trusted news brand in America, 11 years in a row by Harris Poll, and the 5th most trusted brand in America, period. Now, when you think about a Black man owning the Weather Channel, that is significant, because when you look at CNN, that's owned by AT&T. When you look at MSNBC, that's owned by Comcast. When you look at Fox News, that's owned by News Corp. And yes, I own the Weather Channel. And I bought the Weather Channel for a number of reasons. One of the big reasons is I wanted to break that glass ceiling. I wanted to have that Jackie Robinson moment where we as Black people own something that is mainstream, it's news, and it's widely distributed. Just like my buddy here, Roland Martin, has on this Dodger uniform because it's April 15th and it's out of respect to Jackie Robinson. I wanted to show young Black kids, yeah, you can play in the Negro leagues and that's great, but I want you to know you have the talent to play in the global leagues. And you don't have to just do business in your Black neighborhood. I want you to go and do business worldwide. That's why I bought the Weather Channel.
April, let's put this in perspective, because again, the Byron mentioned the whole deal with Jackie Robinson, and this is no slight at Jackie Robinson at all. But I need people to understand that there was major league talent in the Negro leagues, but African Americans did not have the access to the dollars. So therefore you couldn't have, so the major leagues had the better stadiums, the better food, the better uniforms, the better travel, all of those things. Black folks have been completely shut out of the economic process in this country. The reason you go to Black media, Frederick Douglass, North Star, Ida B. Wells Barnett, Robert Abbott, Chicago Defender, A.I. Scott, Atlanta Daily World, you can go on and on and on. Those were opportunities where Black people were completely frozen out, segregation, so the Black consumer was supporting those products. John H. Johnson comes along, Negro Digest, Ebony Magazine, Jet Magazine, Earl Gray's Black Enterprise, Ed Lewis and Clarence with Essence Magazine, and on and on and on. Even then, still frozen out. What we have to understand is that, and we got to call it what it is, Why are we targeting companies specifically? Because it is these ad agencies that don't even return phone calls. And then when they do, we walk in and they give us bullshit metrics to then say, oh, you can't meet this, okay? The reason you don't have Black media companies the size of the New York Times and CNN is because they've been able to grow with the dollars. You cannot build capacity in media if you don't have access to the dollars. Look, I created my Roland Unfiltered platform 2.5 years ago. 100 million views the first year, 260 million views the second year. I haven't bought a single penny of advertising. That's totally organic. And even when we have conversations, we still get all the creative ways to say no. What we're saying to the companies like General Motors and Target and McDonald's and Coca-Cola, we can name all of them, this is your money. This is not the ad agency's money. Stop playing the game, because this is the game that we hear. And Butch knows this, and Byron knows it. We go to the company. Oh, no, go to the agency. We go to the agency. No, it's really the company. We go back to the company. No, go back to the agency. That's the game that we have to deal with. And I can tell you, the reason Ebony Magazine is in the condition it is in now is because they were strangled when it came to the ad dollars. How did Ebony have a higher rate base than Esquire? Yet
okay, let's break it down in layman's terms, because you got a lot of people here who want to know. And when you say the base, the ad base, tell them what that is. Please.
No. The rate base in terms of the number of magazines that you're distributing. Ebony was far higher than Esquire, but Ebony's circulation was higher than Esquire magazine. Ebony was getting $20,000 for a full page ad, and Esquire was getting $200,000. If you read Brett Pulley's book, The $1 Billion Bet, the unauthorized biography of Bob Johnson and BET. When Sumner Redstone and Viacom bought BET, they discovered that BET was getting $1,500 for a 30-second ad, while MTV was getting $8,000. Even when we do get the advertising, we're getting 20 cents on the dollar. But we're not paying 20 cents on the dollar when we go buy that product. What we're saying to these companies, enough with the games, enough dancing around, and y'all want to come in and give a donation. If you properly fund Black media and Black companies, we can give our own donation to the NAACP. We don't need you giving a check. But as long as we're being frozen out, you will never have Black media with capacity. Black enterprise should be as powerful as Forbes, as powerful as Bloomberg. But when you're choking the dollars off and making a jump through hoops, that's not going to happen.
So as I bring,
and Black Enterprise is Black owned and has been around more than 50 years. And most
that's right.
More than 50 years. And most of Madison Avenue doesn't know Black Enterprise, doesn't do Black Enterprise. Now, BET is not Black owned, and that's okay. We want you to support BET. We want you to support, the Black News Channel is not Black owned, and that's okay. We want you to support BET and the Black News Channel. We just don't want you to count the dollars that you spend with those platforms as spending money with Black owned. We're going to be clear and identify what is Black owned. We love and appreciate those organizations. We want you to support those organizations, but what you spend with those organizations can't be counted against Byron Allen, Roland Martin, Butch Graves, Essence and Ebony, and on and on and on, and Ice Cube, and you name it. So we want to be really clear about our ecosystem.
Let's bring Butch Graves in right now. But when you talk about Black-owned media companies, just a few that we have here. Allen Media Group, LLC, Byron Allen, who is here, who has convened this Black-owned media matters symposium webinar. Black Enterprise, New Vision Media Incorporated, Big Three, Cube Vision, WBA, Urban Edge Networks, HBCU League Pass, Ebony Media, Central City Productions, Essence Media, Revolt, and NMPA, and the list goes on. But, and I want to, before I go to you, Butch, Roland, we've talked about this for years. But we're in a very precarious situation and a precarious time as equity is on the table. We see what's going on in Georgia. We see the call out to all the corporations, to include Home Depot, that has not stepped up as of yet, but all the corporation headquarters that are in Georgia, they're saying, okay, we stand with you. Does this call by this group make that much of a difference for them to say, okay, we stand with you and there will be change? And if not, how can that happen? How can you change the dynamic? Because it took crazy restrictive laws for people to say, wait a minute, something's wrong. How do you make people see something is wrong here? This is racial. This is not equity. This is killing of a community that relies on Black-owned media.
Butch, I think that's for you, Butch.
No, that's for you.
Oh,
We've
I'm
talked about
sorry.
this for
Yeah,
you.
no,
And then I'm gonna bring Butch in on that same question.
Okay, all right. So first of all, they are seeing it because it's called light exposing what's in the dark. All of these companies have gotten by over the years by just here a few dollars, but then now it's the call out. So for instance, last week, Target announced that by 2025, they're going to spend $2 billion with Black-owned businesses. Okay, people like, yay. I didn't say yay. I hit them with a series of questions. I said, first off, that's by 2025. How much did you spend in 2019? How much did you spend in 2020? How much are you spending in 2021? And I need you to separate Black-owned media from your diverse supplier development. So what are the actual numbers? See, it's the numbers game. When Mary Barra, when GM announced that they're going to spend that 4% by 2022 and then 8% by 2025, my question is, GM, why can't you spend 8% right now? Why are you waiting until 2025? But okay, let's deal with numbers. See, when people want to throw out a percentage, oh, we increased our Black spend from 1% to 2%. What does that represent? 5 million, 6 million, 8 million, 10 million. Same in political campaigns. The Biden campaign announced the largest expenditure ever targeting Black media. It was $6 million. They raised $1 billion. Trust me, they wanted those Black votes. And so what we're saying is, show me the numbers. And there's that great scene out of Malcolm X when they get the ambulance for Brother Johnson, and then the cop tells Denzel playing Malcolm X, okay, break it up. You came and got what you want. And he says, no, I'm not satisfied. We're not satisfied with 2%. We're not satisfied with 5%. GM's market share for Black consumers is 11.4%. Toyota has the largest Black market share in the auto industry at 15%. Does their ad spending on Black-owned media match their market share? I guarantee you, if it was reversed, there would be some executives getting fired if their market share was as low as their Black-owned media speed. Butch?
And Black America is going to be very clear about, we don't like that. These corporations, these careers are going to end abruptly, quickly, because we have the relationship with Black America. We're in touch every day. You know, I own the Grio. We have 6 million monthly active users. You see the engagement. You see what Roland has. You see what Ebony and Essence and what Butch has. We are Black America. When we speak to Black America and we tell them who is supporting us and who is manipulating us and exploiting us and continuing economic genocide against us, I can assure you Black America will be very clear. These digital boycotts will happen with the push of a button. Hashtag boycott, blah, blah, blah. It will be swift because Black America is not going to accept it anymore, this economic genocide against us and this trade deficit.
Butch, I'm not going to say what is the Black buying potential. What is the current state of Black buying power compared to the monies that they give to Black-owned media? And I'm asking you this because you are the finance guy, you know, Black enterprise. You tell us where the money is and how to find it.
Well, I think, you know, you have to start, April, with the fact that you could actually name all of the Black-owned media demonstrates what the problem is, right?
That's true.
So if you start off and you can say, well, here's the Black-owned media, and the fact that you can name them all, and within 25 seconds, demonstrates what the problem is. The reason there's so few Black-owned media companies is because of the chokehold that Roland referred to before that did not allow for these companies to get investment. We're not interested in the gift. And we need to move away from the words of we're giving you or we're donating to you, what have you. No, we want you to invest in our companies and let us grow our businesses and let us employ our people, because we can do that. And so when you talk about, yeah, for years, the only way you could get information was through Black Enterprise, Ebony, Essence, and Jet. That was the
And your magazines had so many ads in them. They looked like little mini books.
right. But the
I
magazine,
remember years ago.
but understand what they were doing is, and this is the game that was being played. They would put you in and say, we've created a Black budget. I'll call it the sideshow budget. Meanwhile, the main event budget is going on over here. And they said, we got the sideshow budget. What we want you guys to do is, like crabs in the barrel, you all get in there and you all work it out and figure it amongst yourselves. So we've dedicated, $5 million. And I would always say, hey, I don't want to be a part of the sideshow. I'd rather be 2% of the main event than 20% of the sideshow, because I know the sideshow budget has been a set aside. There's nothing sideshow about us as people. If we represent 10, 15, 20% of your market share, why are we getting less than 1/2 of 1% of your budget? Your spend should be commensurate with the market share that your company enjoys with our market, either through targeted and or direct Black-owned media. And I can assure you, even if you took the targeted media and added with the Black-owned media, targeted to Black, targeted or owned by Black, it does not come anywhere close to what we should be, what we have earned. So,
but you take your rate sheets, to these agencies, the executives, and yet they still knock you down. Your numbers are higher.
right,
They knock us down 80–90%.
right, you're 2/3 of a man by definition before you walk in, and then they start discounting you from there. What we do, and I gave up advertising this way. I said, I am not providing discounts to us on our media. If you want to buy a page, this is when we were doing publishing. If you wanted to buy a page in Black Enterprise, you're going to pay the CPM. CPM is cost per thousand. I don't want to make this too technical, but the cost per thousand that you're going to pay Forbes, Fortune, Business Week, Inc., and money. I'm going to get the same exact cost per thousand for an ad. And if you're not willing to pay it, I'm not going to take the ad, because then what I'm saying is I'm allowing you to discount me and not treat me as the same. Now, we need more of these, as my father used to call them, the Buffalo Soldiers, right? We need more of the Earl Graves and the John Johnsons and the Ed Lewises and the Clarence Smiths, who were banging on doors and knocking down things when it was difficult. The Bob Johnsons of the world, what have you. We're no longer asking, because this whole notion of DE&I, and I want to make sure we are clear on this. When they use the word diversity, and corporations want to wrap their arms around the word diversity. Oh, we're so diverse. We're doing.
Is it about the white woman over the Black man?
What's happening is diversity. The word diversity is a diversion away from Black.
Yep.
Okay, that's all it is.
So it's the white woman-fronted organization versus.
Telling me about your diverse numbers is like telling me about, well, this is what we're doing with white women, gay and lesbian, the military, Asian market, Hispanic market, roll it all up together and say, look, we're doing 38%. No. Pull back the covers and tell me exactly what you're doing with people that look like me. That's all I want to hear about. I don't want to know about what you're doing with white women. I don't, no disrespect intended at all. I don't want to know what you're doing with the Hispanic market. I want to know what you're doing with Black people. And the word Black has become so difficult for people to even say. They don't even want to say the word inside the halls within corporate. At the boardroom, they want to use words diversity and targeted, and they come up with all kinds of other words. Why can't you just say, this is what we're doing with Black people?
Because that's Jim Crow 2.0. It has always been about bringing Africans to America to make America wealthy. And now that America's wealthy, commit genocide against Black Americans and just move them to the side. It's about, when you talk about diversity, and that's how they redefine Black, And we're saying, look, do all the business you want with white women, but quite often what you're doing is you're using white women to hide behind the fact that you're not doing business with Black. But I'll tell you something that relates to you, April. When I bought the Griot 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, I was very upset about the presidential election of Donald Trump. And I decided to buy the Griot because it is a very strong platform reaching Black America. And what I wanted to communicate to Black America was that you are the most powerful vote on the planet. The white vote is usually split 50-50. Black America, you are the deciding vote. When you show up, you get a President Barack Hussein Obama. When you don't show up, you lose a Hillary Clinton, you get a Donald Trump. That's the reason I bought the Griot. But what I found out in buying the Griot, advertisers did not support this excellent news organization. I lost, I don't know, maybe 4 million a year supporting the Griot and repositioning the Griot and building it to what it is today. Now, I hired you, and
Yes,
not because of the revenue from the Griot. The Griot's still at a deficit. I was able to hire you because of my general market interests. Once again, Madison Avenue not showing any value to something that's Black. Even though we were, at the end of last year, we were the most visited Black targeted website in America for news and information, with excellent journalists, including yourself and others, you know, Natasha Alford and on and on. That shows you right there. You know, Rupert Murdoch had a situation. Here's Rupert Murdoch, he came into town, he starts the Fox network, and he said, I don't understand why Living Single is doing the same rating in the beginning as Friends, but Friends is getting like 10 times more for a 30-second spot than Living Single. And his white salespeople had to explain to him, white Madison Avenue doesn't care about a Black sitcom featuring Black kids. Basically, they were almost identical shows.
Well, actually, Friends was actually launched because it was purposely copied off of Living Single. They couldn't get Living Single, and they created Friends because they couldn't get it. So there is no Friends without Living Single.
And Rupert couldn't understand how you could have the same ratings and yet not get paid the same. And so they had to explain to this white billionaire coming out of Europe, well, we don't value Black people. Madison Avenue does not value Black people. And this is simple math. Once each and every last client, every advertiser checks the box, and it is a box, the box is simple. This is my box where I'm doing business with Black-owned media. And if you're not checking that box, then what you're saying is you are the problem. You are the institutionalized racism. You do not believe that Black people should have economic inclusion. And once and the best way for us to identify you is when we discover that you have not significantly checked the box. Then we know how you should be dealt with. And I've seen this story many times. You're not going to survive.
April, we got to expand this. We got to expand this, April.
Yeah.
2018, Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, at the insistence of the NNPA, had the General Accounting Office do a study on federal government media spend. In a 5-year period, the federal government spent $5 billion on media advertising. Minority media got $326 million. Black media got $51 million out of $5 billion. Because you got to understand the ecosystem.
And where did it go? Did it go locally? Did it go nationally?
It went to white companies. So here's the deal. The ad agencies compete for the contracts. Forrest Marsh right now, you go to their website, Forrest Marsh right now, it's about 20 federal agencies that are on there. When the census, I need everybody listening to understand, and Butch can speak to this because I know they probably had the same problem. When the census, when they were getting ready for that, the Black Caucus made sure that an additional 70 million was put into the ad budget in order to reach Black people. The total budget was 350 million. Y&R, Young and Rubicam, got the contract. We had to go through their portal, fill the system, fill everything out. Months go by, never heard from them. Looks like 2 months left before the census is over. I tell my salespeople, like, what the hell? I kicked Y&R's ass on the air for 5 days, blasted them on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
All of a sudden, they're like calling the black agency, Carol H. Williams. Oh my God, where's this coming from? She's like, because y'all didn't respond to the proposal. But what should we do? She said, I advise y'all to cut a check. I put the number out there. The only reason we got $250,000 is I had to kick their ass publicly. These agencies, they even control the federal dollars. So they control the federal dollars, they control the corporate dollars. And so we are now dealing with this behemoth of the ad agencies who completely shut us out. There are very few black people who work there as well. And so this initiative, we're saying we're going right to the company. And so for the federal government, the same thing. The white ad agencies control the budgets of the political campaigns. They even control that. So when Butch said they got the black budget, when I got money for covering for advertising for the Ossoff Warnock campaign, I didn't get money from the ad budget. They getting money from the celebrity influencer budget because the white controlled ad agencies did not want to give us ad money. We have to understand this entire system is structured to freeze us out.
I think it's important, I think it's important to focus on the following. There's no question the ad agencies are amongst the worst industries. The ad agency business is one of the worst industries for African Americans, right? It's like the Rocky Mountains. The higher you go up, the whiter it becomes. So there's not going to be, you're never going to get satisfaction there. But I will go to tell you what my father used to say to me. He says, Butch, if I end up at an ad agency, that means I got lost on my way to the client.
Boom.
This has got nothing to do. I could care less about the ad agency because the ad agency works with the client. So our focus, and I want to be results oriented now and focus on solutions. Right? Rather, we can outline the problems for 5 hours. We need to focus on what the solution is. The solution is, and it started with what Byron did with suing the cable companies before, and now it's got people's attention. There are ever since the 9 minutes and 29 seconds of George Floyd, of his having a knee on his neck, corporate America suddenly looked up and said, oh my God, this is awful. We need to do something. So then they started making random pledges, as Roland referred to one before with the Target made. Random pledges. We're going to spend $500 million to fight social injustice. We're going to spend $2 billion with black-owned business. And the question gets back to how? How do we hold these companies accountable? And that should really be our focus as black-owned media. We need to go to the corporations, to the companies themselves. I could care less about the ad agency and say to the Corporation X, because it's not focusing on the name of one company misses the point. There's 300 companies that are doing the same exact thing. The fact that we would have chose one company first is nothing more than a spin on the wheel. You name the company. There's no corporation, no one in corporate America is doing what they should be doing with black-owned media. That's a fact.
Not one. Yeah, that's right.
What we need, there's not one. So what we have to do is go back and say, what we're going to do is one by one, we're going to give you the opportunity to right the ship, to create true equity. The only thing that matters in DE&I is equity. I don't care about diversity. I don't want to be included. Included means you invited me to the party, but you put me at the kiddie table. I want equity and parity. And that's what we're going to focus on. So we're going to go by company. Company X, no names. Company X, tell me what you're going to do with black-owned media in 2021, 2022, and 2023. Give me your 3-year plan. And if they start hemming and hawing, which they will do, and they'll say, well, we don't make 2-year commitments. We don't make 3-year commitments. We need to evaluate, what have you, to say, no, we're not going to evaluation because somehow or another you were able to make commitments in general market media. So you're going to make those same commitments at the same time and spend the money that is necessary. This does not have to even be combative. We're simply asking for equity. And when people
then
say,
what happens if you don't get what you want?
well,
Are you going to be litigious?
Tap that ass.
Oh, no, listen, here's what's going to happen. I can tell you what's going to happen. I went through this with the cable industry. And what happened was I went to these guys and I said, look, you should provide economic inclusion for black-owned media. And you just have these guys there who just, look, black people deserve nothing and they just held their position. A number of them lost their careers. lost major careers pushing back. And I told them that's what was going to happen. I said, guys, you need to understand something. I'm an owner. I own my company 100%. I'm privately held. You are temporary hired help. Temporary hired help will never be an owner. I'm here forever. And the moment I vacate this chair, one of my daughters is going to sit here. But I'm going to fix this before she sits here. Guys, if you push back on this, I guarantee you, you're going to lose your career. And it's not necessary. You shouldn't push back on it. Just pushing back on it is evil. It says you're racist. You're saying, I don't believe Black-owned media deserves economic inclusion. You're saying Black people don't deserve economic inclusion. You're evil. You're racist. You're going to be eliminated from the system. Your career, if you do the research, you will see some folks in the cable industry lost their career pushing back on me on this issue. And I told them, I said, don't push back. Just get to the table. Let's work it out. And the ones who worked it out, they've done extremely well, and we have a great relationship. The ones who push back, nobody remembers their name. They still don't have jobs. That's what's going to happen. And by the way, I'm good with that. I've hired litigators who only work for me. I know that this is a war. I know that. And I'm good with that. I'm free because of war. My Black ass isn't a slave on a plantation right now because of war. War is good. War gives you results. We have to get this done. Now, we can do it in a nice, peaceful way that it should be, in a respectful way that doesn't say, hi, I'm racist and I don't care and you guys don't deserve anything. The boycotts will be enormous. See, what we didn't have before is we didn't have the ability to communicate with Black people with the push of a button. This digital age, we can launch a boycott like that. And
you can go direct to
wildfire.
those.
Direct, and not only that, we'll go, A, it's litigation. B, it's a boycott. C, it is your institutional investors. D, it's the government. Four ways you will feel it. You will have that conversation. Let's talk about ESG, right? Environmental and social governance, environmental and social. Well, guess what? When you do business with Black-owned media, that's part of the S, the ESG. That's your social governance. You're not doing business with us. You're not. So when they talk about ESG, well, we are the S and ESG, but you're not checking that box. We're here to help you. I didn't want anybody in the cable industry to lose their career. Not one of them. I told every last one of them, you're going to push back. Let me tell you what's going to happen. You're going to lose your career. I don't want anybody to lose their career in this. I don't. I'm there. That's why I've taken a year of my life. And I've said to everybody, let's talk. Let me explain the situation. Here's how we do it. Here's how we engage. It's real simple. Earmark 5%, 8%, 10% of your budget to go to Black-owned media. Problem solved.
In April, what I need Black-owned media to do is stop playing yourself small. Don't try to go for the side deal. They love to separate us in order to be able to say, I'm gonna give you a little piece and a little piece. We gotta have the power and the willingness to operate as a collective. We met with General Motors. We were clear, $200 million a year, 5% escalators, 10-year deal. So what they want to do is they want to say, well, let's do these individual meetings, divide and conquer. That's not how we're able to make this happen. We have to be willing to stick together, and it might mean gritting your teeth and like, well, I'm getting this right now, but if you're getting a little bit right now and they add a little bit more, you're losing out on what's greater. So that the collective matters.
Roland brings up a great point. It doesn't matter what you do with this Black-owned media over here. If that Black-owned media is stupid enough to accept $100 grand a year or $300 grand a year, God bless you. But you're not a part of our conversation. We're at the table saying you're a corporation spending $3 billion a year. So your allocation to Black-owned media should be, $200 million a year. If you're Black and you're stupid enough to take 200 and be happy and go do your tap dance down the street, do your tap dance down the street. That does not impact me. That does not.
You want the meal, not crumbs. You want the meal.
You got that right. You got that right.
So Butch has got to go, I believe, and then we have questions. People are really coming in with the questions. Butch, I understand you have to go. So,
At 2:15, you have for another 10 minutes.
Yeah, I got 15. I got 2:15. But
oh, good, good, good. So let's. So,
April, you asked the question though. You said, well, what will we do if people decide that they don't want to play ball? And there's going to be the majority of people are going to do, quote, the right thing. Maybe by hook and by crook. Maybe they have to be dragged there, but they will ultimately do it. There's going to be
ultimately, but how long is ultimate?
Well, the person that replaces them will know why they're replacing them. Trust me, I've seen this story many times.
It will happen.
I want people to get replaced so we don't have this in the system. But to you, Butch.
What we have though is today it used to be there was a few publishing to millions. Today you got millions publishing to millions. So what does that mean? We have, the Griot has 6 million uniques. Black Enterprise has 6 million uniques. Every month, with a push of a button, we can be in contact with everyone Black and say, here's a company who's not doing the right thing. And I can point out, and the example I'm going to use is I'm going to use boards of directors as that example. We have been putting out a list of the S&P 500 of here's the 500 largest publicly traded companies. And of those 500 largest publicly traded companies, in 2020, only 300 of them actually had a Black director on its board. And you say, how is that possible? Right? How is it possible? Well, it's possible because no one told them. So I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to publish this list. And by the way, if I go back 5 years, it was 200. And all I'm going to do is take public information and make it more public. But I'm going to make it public in a way to say, ladies and gentlemen, here's the list of the S&P 500. Here's the 200 companies at the time that have Black directors. And here's the 300 companies, name brands that do not. Suddenly, people started saying, oh my God, we got to find directors. So today, you'd be hard pressed to find a publicly traded company who does not either A, have an African-American sitting on its board, or B, is in the midst now of looking, recruiting, what have you, to bring them on the board. In the same way they've done it with women. If we do the same exact thing, that all we're talking about doing is saying, hey, we're going to give everybody a chance to do this the right way. But once it passes the, quote, time frame of doing it the right way, we will make public. By the way, here's the 50 companies that decided not to return our phone call, that told us that we're not going to spend 5% of their budget on Black-owned media, what have you. And by the way, you have choices. You can either have this water or this water. I suggest as a Black person, you drink this water because this water is supported by people who've invested in you. And that will turn things around because let me tell you something. White people are confused about a lot of different things in this country. But the one thing they're not confused about is money. They're not confused about that. They're confused about social justice, confused about a number of different things. But when it comes, my father said all the time, he said, Butch, here's the one that you can never be, they will never be confused about money, right?
So it sounds like there's allyship in every other area except for this area, the money.
That's right. And that's the most difficult. But they're confused. That they are confused, Butch, on how to spend money with Black people. Two things I want to share with the industry, the ad community. Here's what I would say to the ad agencies. And I had a great meeting with the 4 A's. And I want to thank Marla, who runs that, for giving me that opportunity. Here's what I'm saying to the ad agencies. I know it's not your money, but do yourself a favor. Take yourself out of being the villain, being placed as the villain. You're not the villain, ad agencies. You should come out and declare that you want each and every last one of your clients to spend a certain percentage with Black-owned media. You as the ad community need to be responsible. If you don't do that, then you are the problem. You are the definition of systemic racism. Each and every ad agency should come out and say, we think this is important. This is a part of ESG, and each and every last one of our clients should allocate resources to Black-owned media. I'll also say to the board of directors, your careers are to be board of directors. That's your career. You're sitting on 3 or 4 boards and you're making $1.5 million a year because you sit on the board of 4 companies. You're going to jeopardize your board careers because when these companies are when they're named in lawsuits, each and every board of director will be named. All of the boards, all the board members will be named. And it will be out there that you didn't do the right thing to make sure Black-owned media didn't participate in the economic inclusion. So the board of directors, you need to lean in. The ad agencies, you need to lean in. Do not let these corporations destroy your careers, destroy your agencies, destroy your board careers, because you cannot continue to participate in this systemic racism where Black-owned media is nearly extinct. Ebony filed bankruptcy. Over 75 years up and running, filed bankruptcy. Thank God a Black man bought it and it's still Black-owned, but it never should have filed bankruptcy. Why did it file bankruptcy? Because of the systemic racism on Madison Avenue and their clients, because Madison Avenue needs to hold their clients accountable and say, you know what? That's not cool. You need to spend money with Black-owned media, client. And your client, what planet are you from if you think it's okay not to include us? So everybody has to lean in, and no one is going to escape not being held accountable, especially the board of directors.
Okay, we've got 5 minutes and we've got questions. I'm gonna throw it out to you. But Byron, there are people who are asking, is Byron creating an organization to help smaller or newer Black-owned media companies to win more spending from advertisers?
Yes, absolutely. We're saying Black-owned media. We don't say just the 7 people who were brave enough to write an open letter to a Mary Barra and put it in the Detroit Free Press and the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal. It's for all of Black-owned media. You know, at the end of the day, listen, I could have kept my mouth shut. Nobody makes more from GM than I take in almost. When we added it all up, it was about $10 million coming from General Motors to Black-owned media. 230 Black-owned newspapers in America, 230. Collectively, they only get $1.2 million from General Motors. $1.2 million from General Motors. 230 Black newspapers split up, divvy up. 1.2 million, an average of $5,200 a newspaper, an average of $5,200 per Black newspaper. Get your calculator. Take $1 million.
You can't survive off of that.
Once again, when you're Black in America, we have the conversations about surviving. I'm done with surviving. We're moving on to thriving. Right. Surviving is over. We're thriving. So when you take 1.2 million and you divide it by 230, yes, that is an atrocity. So what you have to do is get your calculator, hold corporate America accountable, and make it really clear, hey, stop with the donations. Stop with the, hey, we're building parks and we're doing, I don't care about all that. We're not a charity. I'm not looking for a handout. We're a business. Now, you have to do business with us. And of the 10 million, the majority of that money comes to me. Of that 10 million, I'm number one by far. I could have easily shut up, but it's not about me. It's about us. It's about us. It's about doing business with all of us. I am the majority of that 10 million. And what I'm saying is you need to recognize Black-owned media. And by the way, I'm not going to just stop with Madison Avenue. There are issues throughout our entire ecosystem. So yes, everybody. So we're doing the National Association of African American Owned Media, NAOM, the National Association of African American Owned Media. What I am doing is I'm saying, Black America, you see out there, you see that ocean? There's one drop of water in that ocean, one drop of water. We are now making sure there is plenty of water in this ocean so Black America, for once, can go swimming forever.
So when you talk about the donations, it almost sounds like I don't want to give you the money. I'd rather give it to somebody else than give it to you.
Yeah,
that's crazy. So now, so here's something. You have made a point. There is an owner of a quote sizable company that sells outdoor advertising who has experienced the problem and wants to work with Byron on this campaign.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're happy.
Just send us an email.
Look,
Send us an email.
when I sued the cable industry, I spent tens of millions of dollars of my own personal money. When I sued the industry, I was also saying to all of America and all of Black America, this law is here, this law was put here for you. By the way, you know, even President Clinton, former President Clinton had a problem. You know what President Clinton said? President Clinton said the United States government spends $1 billion advertising, not one penny was going to Black-owned media. He did a presidential mandate to make sure money was being spent with Black-owned media. It was completely ignored, and Senator Kerry had a hearing 10 years later saying, why is it a presidential mandate was ignored and Black-owned media is still not getting ad dollars out of the United States government? White corporate America, when it comes to Black America, you believe we deserve nothing. You still want, it's Jim Crow 2.0, stay on the plantation. I mean, look at how they voted down minimum wage, 15 bucks an hour. Who can survive on 15 bucks an hour? It is a modern day sophisticated plantation. Black people, I want you to have nothing. You're here to serve me and to create my wealth. Now, when it's time to talk about actually providing economic inclusion, I'm confused. I'm here to bring clarity. No more confusion. It's time to provide economic inclusion.
Yeah, to help me understand. I don't understand. Help me understand. I get it. Also, someone asked, does this problem occur? Go ahead, Butch.
Unfortunately, it's 2:15, and I got to.
Do your thing, Butch. Do your thing.
Peace, my brother. Thank you, Butch.
We love you.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Butch. Thank you for your contributions. Someone says, does this problem, and we're going to wrap this up soon. We've got a couple of questions, 2 questions. Does this problem occur in local media as well as national?
Yes, across the board, Wendell Pierce, they formed a coalition in Louisiana with the radio station he owns, with the Black newspapers there as well. They went to the New Orleans City Council about this because that was a white guy who owned a chain of grocery stores in New Orleans who participated in the January 6th white supremacist insurrection. Then it got busted, and then he went to all the Black media to apologize, and they said, you coming to us to apologize, your grocery store has never taken ads out in any Black media. So they've created a coalition there. So what's happening nationally is happening locally. It's all across the board in every sector. And look, I've run 3 Black newspapers, was the founding editor of Tom Jones' BlackAmericaWeb.com, was news editor of Savoy magazine. This is my 13th Black-owned media experience, and I've seen it in newspaper, magazine, radio, television. It's across the board. We are shut out across the board. It does not matter if you're local, state, regional, or national.
That's right.
And black, you're right. Black media across the board, and radio is dying. I hate to say this, and they're trying to change radio now because it's I don't even remember what year it is. They're talking about taking AM, FM bands out and putting satellite in, and what happens to the Black-owned media, those AM stations.
Well, we don't have any money in our ecosystem. It doesn't matter how many, whether it's newspapers, magazines, radio, this or that. You have $0 in your ecosystem. You have to put the money in your ecosystem to thrive. Forget survive. What's the next question? I love these questions.
They want to know how to join the National Association of African American Owned Media.
We'll put that information out at the GRIO, and Roland and Black Enterprise will all get it out.
Okay? All right. So stay tuned, guys. You heard Byron. Look for the GRIO, go to Roland's Unfiltered, and go to Black Enterprise. Now, Byron, this is a question. It says, if Byron received settlements from lawsuits, would he share the funds to help support and seed smaller Black-owned media?
I will send you the bill for our lawsuits. That's what we're doing. That's what we've been doing. We have been, the fight that I've been funding has made it phenomenal for a lot of folks who were completely shut out.
Okay, I need people to understand. Okay, first of all, let me just help people out. I need to understand what we're talking about here. When we go to companies and we say we need you to increase your Black-owned spend, we're not saying you only should spend the money with Byron, Todd Brown, Roland Martin, Butch Graves, Ebony and Junior Bridgman, Don Jackson. No, what we're saying is the whole pot. So what we're saying is, if y'all are only spending 5, 6, 10 million now, we want to be 200 million.
And so that's why we're pushing for the numbers. When General Motors told us our numbers were wrong, we said, fine, give us the correct numbers. They said, oh, we can't for competitive reasons. Well, hell, don't tell me my number's wrong, but you don't want to give the numbers. That's why, again, Target, I love Laisha Ward, but I emailed her back. I said, don't tell me you're going to spend $2 billion on Black-owned businesses. I need to know what's the percentage of that and what does that mean? Because you could be spending $2 billion and the number should be $10 billion. So that's the whole deal. So we're not trying to exclude anybody. I've been talking with Morgan Devon with Blavity. We've been talking to the NNPA. There are a number of other Black-owned media companies who've been reaching out to us, whom they are now setting up meetings with, folks. So this is not, oh, we're going to sue and there's a settlement. No, we're saying increase your budget.
Right now, let me be really clear. I have succeeded tremendously. Black America, you are positioned to fail. You are positioned to fail. There is nothing here for you. I am one of the few and only to come back, turn around and say, no, I got through. I'm now going to position Black-owned media to succeed. Remember, General Motors was spending about $10 million and I was taking the majority of it. I'm the first Black person in my position to be the #1 person getting the majority of the money to speak up. I was being paid millions of reasons to shut up. But I said, I don't care about that. It's not about what you pay me. It's what you don't pay to the rest. I am positioning Black America to succeed. And how do you do that? I have to put capital in your ecosystem. So by me speaking up, litigating, forcing the issue, taking out full-page ads, guess what? You now have money available to you that wasn't available to you yesterday or last week. And it's money that I am taking and that I am risking to make sure the door is open for you.
And we open it and we do all more money, April. Byron can't put all the money. I mean, no, seriously, there's not, okay, I need everybody who's listening. He doesn't have enough inventory to suck up all of the money.
And you gotta
take, I need you to understand, if you take my inventory and Butch's inventory,
Explain inventory.
So we're saying the conversation we're
add space. That's all we're saying. Y'all, the inventory. So all of a sudden we're saying, if this is the money you're spending right now, and this is Byron's inventory, we want you to spend this. So we're trying to say, we need you to infill all of this Black-owned media. And so, folks, understand, this is a different deal than what he did with the cable deal. We're saying expand the buy for Black-owned media. So the companies now, and we're going to hold them accountable, come back and say, who's the Black-owned media? So we have to understand that's what we're fighting for. So yeah, I can't, if they say, you know, Roland, we're going to give you 100 million. If my inventory can't support that, no, the other Black-owned media, we're saying you've got to be able to spread the pie. What they've done, listen, is historically given only a sprinkle to a few Black people and say, hey, we're good. We're saying the sprinkle doesn't work.
The ones they like that are not confrontational.
We're saying the sprinkle doesn't work.
And by the way, you can't work around me because my platforms are general market. It's the Weather Channel. It's syndicated shows. So to be clear, here's what's happening in Black America. What I'm saying is right now, in that box to spend money with Black-owned media collectively out of 200 billion is maybe 50 million. And what we're saying to Madison Avenue, we need that number to be 20 billion.
There you go.
Now, if 20 billion is being deployed your way and you can't figure out how to get some of that 20 billion for your Black-owned media, I can't help you anymore. I just can't help you. As my grandmother would say, child, I can't help you anymore. So what we're doing is we're saying this category is only taking in 50 million. It now needs to move to 20 billion.
All right, so guys, we got 3 great questions, and then I'm going to go for solutions. Now, I'm going to do rapid fire with these questions. One person on this webinar asked, how to justify to their clients spending on Black-owned media, even if the audience is not their target audience.
What the hell is that? No. Black people are everybody's target audience, okay? We ain't talking about NASCAR. If you selling cars, shoes, bags, jewelry, you black, that's Black people, okay? I need us to don't even, please remove that question. Black people, let me be real clear. Everybody has monetized Blackness, and Black people have been the only ones not to benefit from the Blackness. They want us buying their cars and their televisions and their phones and their pads. What they're not doing is what Dr. King said on April 3rd, 1968 at Mason Temple when using economic reciprocity. That's why, if you go back and listen to that speech, he said, we're gonna redistribute the pain. So the point is this here, we are tired of companies valuing our dollars, but not valuing our companies in returning those dollars. So trust me, they love us. Oh, no. We over-index, folks. We over-index on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. They love us. They don't love us when it's time to pay us.
There it is. What's the next one?
Right. Are Latinx companies having similar issues?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And what my lawyers told me is that I don't have standing. You know, they said, look, you're not gay, you're not Asian, you're not Hispanic. You can only sue based on where you have standing. You're Black. You have to stay in your lane. Because I told my lawyers I wanted to sue on behalf of gay people, Asian people, Hispanic people. And my lawyer said, well, you can't because you're not gay, you're not Asian, you're not Hispanic, you're Black. You got to stay in your lane. But I encourage all communities to get their fair share. All
right.
But let's be real clear. We are here for Black people. Because now let me say this because it's really important. Black people have fought for everybody else. When we walk into the room, we're there for Black-owned media companies. If other folk want to fight, that's cool. Fight your fight.
People like you don't see any other group fighting for you, so therefore you have to stand and fight for yourself.
Well, here's the other deal. If we walk into the room and say, we want you to increase your minority spend, what if they increase their minority spend and don't come to us? They're gonna say, you told us to increase our minority spend. Same thing. No, we there for Black people. Yeah, so we ain't got no problem saying it. And we want companies to say Black owned, not Black targeted.
Black owned. Okay, what's your next question?
And this is the last question. Someone asked, they're trying to send me another question. Someone asked, has anyone involved Black athletes in this campaign? Isn't the gentleman who owns Ebony a former athlete?
Junior Bridgman. Yes, Junior Bridgman is involved. He's fantastic. What's your next question? You had another one.
They're sending it now, but they're sending it. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go to solutions. This has been a very dynamic, enlightening conversation on business, but race in business, money in business. This is real. This is real. Byron employs, how many people do you employ?
I employ 1,400 people, but let me tell you something. This has always been about money.
Yep.
They brought my Black ass from Africa to be a slave for the money. It's always been about money. It's never been about anything but money. That is why America is the wealthiest country in the world, because you had over almost 300 years of free labor. And at the end of the day, this is about the American economic pie. All of this is about making sure you don't share with us. Martin Luther King said, my liberals were next to me when we were fighting for civil rights. But the moment he started speaking about economic inclusion, he said, you abandoned me. This is why they killed him, because of this conversation. This is the conversation America doesn't want to have. This is the reconciliation America doesn't want to deliver. We now have to get this done. This is 400 years overdue. Economic inclusion for Black America forever.
And this is the last question, and then we're going to go to solutions, and we're going to start rolling then with Byron. But here's the question. It's kind of insulting because I'm going to correct the person in a minute, but I want you to hear it. If it's so impossible for a Black company to build to scale, how did Bob Johnson do it and eventually sell BET for billions.
You
Well,
that
you have
the person asking the question obviously did not listen to what I said before.
Yeah.
Bob
And
Johnson.
not only that, you have a billionaire sitting right here by the name of Byron Allen, if you didn't know, but go ahead.
Okay, this is very simple. This is very simple, folks. Let me repeat this again. It's in Brett Pulley's book, okay? Pulley. BET was getting $1,500 for a 30-second ad, and MTV was getting $8,000 for a 30-second ad. BET was sold for $3.3 billion. If BET was getting its fair market value for its ads, BET should have been sold for $10 billion. Now, let me further unpack that. They were sold for $3.3 billion. If they were getting their fair share of advertising, they would have been worth $10 billion, which means that if Bob Johnson and Sheila Johnson, who sold it in order because they wanted liquidity, if they sold 1/3 of BET, they would have sold it for the same $3.3 billion, and they would still be the owners of the network. Folks, I need y'all to understand, when we get our fair share, then we can still own. They sold it because they used $20,000 of their own money to actually start it. And so liquidity, they've been able to own and acquire things. Do y'all understand that?
Oh, we lost Roland. You touched your.
Yeah, and I got it. Rupert Murdoch sold Fox Entertainment to Disney for $70 billion. He gave each one of his kids $2 to $3 billion from that. So what we're arguing for is fair share. If they getting $8 grand for an ad, we want $8 grand. If the full page ad,
If they get 8, I want 16 because we have some reciprocity. We have some catching up to do.
If the full page ad is worth 200, pay 200. But I need our people to understand, we're saying you're not going to play us small anymore. No. I'm telling you right now, look, I built this thing on $350,000 of my own dollars to go from 0 to 260 million views in 2.5 years. Okay, folks, that was built. Hey, struggling, that's how we're gonna get stuff paid. The point is this here, PragerU, they raised $25 million their first year because a couple of conservative billionaires gave them $7 million ups to start up with. We don't have that. We can build multiple billion-dollar companies right now, but you can't do it if you're getting frozen out of the money. We're saying like Frank Lucas said in American Gangster, I'm gonna get that money.
Okay, let me just lay it out to you. We're talking about creating hundreds of Bob and Sheila Johnsons,
right?
Thousands of Bob and Sheila Johnsons, because right now you can't do anything with 50 million in your ecosystem. You got to get that to 20 billion. What's your next question? Or what was the next?
No, it's solutions, but it sounds like it's also our mindset. When we come to the table, our mindset has to be right to say, I want more, not this little crumb. I want the whole meal. I want a 6-7 course meal versus a crumb or a scrap on the table.
We ain't walking, and we are not walking hand in hand.
That's it. Listen, I burned my knee pads long ago. You got to burn your knee pads. Got to get rid of them. You got to stand on your feet. Get up off your knees. You got to come off the plantation. You can't live anymore with that plantation mentality. This is yours. You deserve better. I'm fighting for you. Roland's fighting for you. Everybody's fighting you. Ice Cube's fighting for you. Butch Graves is fighting for you. Black-owned media is fighting for you. You deserve this. This is the greatest trade deficit in America, the trade deficit between white corporate America and Black America. And we cannot achieve one America until we reconcile that trade gap. How are we going to do that? We're going directly to the corporations, directly to the boards, directly to the chairmen and CEOs and the CMOs. And if they don't do what they should do to stop the systemic racism, they will lose their careers and get flushed out of the system, and we will eventually get it done. There's no scenario in which we lose.
My final comment, April, final comment. Byron is 60. I'm 52. None of us are going to live forever. None of us want to think about death. Trust me, I don't. But here's the deal. What the fight today is to ensure there is a Black-owned media 100 years from now. If you do not do the fight today, you are guaranteeing there will not be a Black-owned media, not 100, not 50, but not by 2043 when America becomes a nation majority of people of color. What Frederick Douglass did, the first Black newspaper, Freedom's Journal, March 16, 1827, wrote, "We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us." We have struggled. We have scraped pennies. We have survived. But the point of thriving means you're going to properly fund us. So again, the next 2 and 3 generations can have Black-owned people who speak to our own cause, because we're not going to ask somebody else to tell our story. This is a generational legacy fight, not about today.
And
So
April,
Byron,
remember something. I want you to remember something. When you think about Black people in this country and how Jim Crow, and they worked so hard, because after slavery, after emancipation, we as Black people did extremely well. If you're going to build wealth for somebody for scraps off someone's table, we did great. And when they saw our progress, like the Oklahoma, Black Wall Street, the Oklahoma massacre, why? Because they saw us prosperous. They saw us move forward. That's why they went and murdered all of those people. It was getting that economic inclusion. Now, what prompted me to
and destroyed the income of the town, destroyed their income.
It destroyed the people. But what prompted me to move in such a strong way is when I look at Ebony, and it's been around for over 75 years, and I watched it go into bankruptcy, and I watched John Johnson lose his legacy, and his daughter, who he left it to, she couldn't get enough ad dollars to support Ebony. That's when I said, this is not something I'm going to do. Spend my life building this media company, leaving it to my children, and they lose it because I didn't deal with the systemic racism in America as it relates to economic inclusion. Yep. And the systemic racism on Madison Avenue, and all of these clients who try and hide behind their agencies and don't spend money. That's not happening. I am going to come to each and every last one of you. I'm going to hold you accountable, and I guarantee you, with everything in my heart and soul, you will not survive if you continue to be evil and you think it's okay to exclude us. That's not.
I need to drop one last factoid. I got to drop one last factoid for everybody who's watching. This is pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, there were 2.6 million Black-owned businesses in America. 2.5 million of them had one employee. They were doing an average revenue of $54,000. That means that pre-COVID, in all of America, there were only 100,000 Black-owned businesses with more than one employee and doing more than $54,000 in revenue. I launched Roland Martin Unfiltered in September 2018 with 7 employees. Did $600,000 in revenue the first year. That means that the day I launched, and I actually had one sponsor at $250,000. The day I launched, I was in the top 5% of all Black-owned businesses in America. Now, that is not something to applaud. What does that tell you about how the degradation of Black-owned businesses, that when COVID hit, we lost 41% of all of our Black-owned businesses because most of them are simply sole proprietors. What this fight is about is building capacity and scale. So when a storm hits, you can weather the storm and then come out of the storm still here. We are not talking about losing our Black-owned media. And if we are successful with this fight, then that will not happen.
Let me
So
tell you
I want to
share something with you. A lot of the ad agencies and a lot of the clients are at the table and they're leaning in. I will say a lot of people, most are leaning in and saying, you know what, Byron, my bad. Thanks for helping me recognize this issue. We haven't heard from one agency or one client saying we disagree. So far, what we're hearing is we're at the table. We know this is a problem. We want to fix the problem. Please help us fix the problem, which is why you see us now sitting down with Mary Barra at General Motors. You're seeing us help Verizon with their with their seminar for Black-owned media. A lot of corporations are at the table and they're smart. They're the smart ones. They're at the table saying, help us. And you know what we're saying? we're here to help you. Mary Barra, I'm really here to help you. I'm here to help you be better. If we wanted to just file a lawsuit, we would have filed a lawsuit long ago. But we didn't file the lawsuit because we believe in you, Mary, and we believe you when you say you want to be better, and we want to help you be better. We want to help Chrysler and Ford and Toyota. We want to help every advertiser be better. But what you have to do is you have to say, I want to be better. You say you want to be better, I'm going to give you a hug and say, all right, let's sit down. Here's how we're going to do it. And I'm going to make sure that you understand innately why this is a great investment. And this is why you need to do this. So we're here to help. We're here to help. And we have invested enormous time and resources to educate, to guide, to shed a light on it, and to come together so we can achieve the most important thing ever, one America. And after we achieve one America, we can achieve one planet. And when we achieve that, we will actually achieve a slice of heaven right here on earth. And it starts with economic inclusion for all.
This has been a very enlightening conversation about business, about media, particularly Black-owned media, and equity. If you don't understand how racism has played in this, I don't know what to tell you, but it's been very enlightening. And it just brings me back to something I talked to Byron about earlier. The first person that I worked for in Black-owned media was a woman by the name of Dorothy Brunson, the late Dorothy Brunson. And I'll never forget, she worked hard to get those advertising dollars. She was the first Black woman to have a television station and couldn't stay afloat. Why? Because once again, she was viewed differently. She had a television station viewed differently than her white counterparts. It's real. And that's why we're talking about Black-owned media matters. And with that, we want to say thank you, Roland Martin. Thank you, Butch Graves. And of course, the incomparable Byron Allen. And Kathy, we want to give it back to you.
And Kathy, are you there real quick? I just want to say to Madison Avenue, we know you have what it takes to do the right thing. This is a really important opportunity. This is a historic moment. Be on the right side of history. Do the right thing. Lean in and include Black-owned media. We know you have it in your heart and you have the desire to do it. We're here to help you do it. Let's do it together. And as we do it together, it's not about America being great again. America has always been great. This is about America being great forever. And you can do it. And it's on you now. Let's make it happen. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Byron. TV News Check will cover it all as you proceed with the National Association of African-Owned Media. And we'll just cover it all. I want to this was a fabulous conversation.
Wasn't it?
Yes. Thank you to Byron Allen, founder of Entertainment Studios and Allen Media Group and owner of the Weather Channel, to Butch Graves, president and CEO of Black Enterprise, to Roland Martin, host of Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Appreciate it.
And to April Ryan, our wonderful moderator, who is veteran writer and author and White House correspondent for the GRIO. We'll be emailing a link to this video of this webinar to everybody who's attended and people who registered and didn't quite make it. We'll be promoting the video like crazy on TV News Check. So more from us soon. Thanks again, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.